like some kind of a dog agility test, isn't it? So we're all back. Well, we're kind of all back, as what happens usually with these events is that we get a lot of info. Yes, that's right, Cookie. That's right, darling. Everyone gets very stimulated, lots of information. People go and make connections in the pub or in the cafe. So a few stragglers outside. If anyone can hear me, I think there's a few in Smoker's Corner. We are about to commence. Miles is going to take to the stage with our next guest, Duncan. And I think that is that the title of the talk, Far Above Space and Time? That's the kind of general esoteric theme that we're going for. But of course, I really want to introduce the most special guest of the day, and I think we should all put our hands together for the lovely Cookie who's on the stage here with Duncan. Yeah, Cookie, little Christmas dog. Bit of Christmas cheer there. So without further ado, Miles, if you'd like to come up as well. You're always telling people what to do, and I'm going to say, come here now, come on. And let's see what they have to say, shall we? Let's see what they have to say. Miles Johnston and Duncan the Gridkeeper, everybody, and Cookie.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. That's it.
According to Jane, we've run this country before, haven't we?
Ooh.
Don't go in there.
Don't go there.
Right, now, Tookie, be quiet.
Well, you can go back
Cookie,
over there.
be
Sit
quiet.
down. Sit down.
Right. I'm standing in for John Walson. John Walson is the guy who has written a book in conjunction with John L Wilkie. I keep on calling him an elf. John F. Wilkie has got a connection with the Star Wars films. He's an actor. And he was able to take these pictures, these fuzzy images that John Walson's been taking with a specially modified series of telescopes. So what John Walson has done is have all his efforts catalogued in this edition of Far Above Space-Time, and that's a trademark because this is all about far above space and time. Now, John has a very close colleague called the Gridkeeper. Are you in shot?
Yeah,
Are we in shot?
I've known John for 25 years. We've been friends.
And there's another guy called James Casbolt that used to run around the place, and two other individuals.
We won't mention their names.
We won't mention their names.
They won't like it.
They won't like it. One was an American, and he was there when something happened.
Was he?
Yeah.
Who was that?
The CIA.
Oh, yeah.
Just a bit closer. Yeah, basically a friend from America happened to be in a certain library or book depository. And he saw a couple of people holding these long things and going bang, bang, and wondered what was...
Michael.
Michael, yeah, Michael. We can't mention his name, Michael. So the point about that is that joins people together at very high levels. And John Walson has been taking these images for a long time, going back to 2006. Now, the book is available online. This is the color version. And this is how he modified the telescopes to take the following images. Now, one of them, we just cobbled together some stuff that, this is from about a year ago. Duncan?
A lot of these pictures, I don't know anything about that one.
Right. Well, basically, there's been an awful lot of drones and craft flying around. So what he's done is he took a whole series of the video frames and added them all up and got something like that. So that's some of these invisible craft, which if you use the right optical wide spectrum imagery technology, you can see these things. Now, one of the little things which have been happening is Duncan...
Oh, I can talk about them.
Ooh. See, Duncan also is known as the Gridkeeper, and he was doing an awful lot of stuff with the crop circles and the grid in Glastonbury. The energy...
Avebury. Stonehenge.
And as a consequence, he's a person of interest.
Yeah, I started doing that in Stonehenge in 2007.
Yeah.
And we learned how to change the vortexes, because my family used to, some of you know all about me, but for those that don't, my family used to look after all the stone circles in England up until 1066. When we were
what
all
happened
slaughtered.
in 1066 to stop all that happening?
William the Rothschild slaughtered my family and gave all our land to the French, and there was a lot of it. Yeah, we owned all the land below the River Thames in England.
See,
it all got taken away.
You think this is just happening because of the farming today, but okay.
No, it's been going on for a
long
long
time.
time.
Get going. You're on your run now.
And we changed the vortex at Stonehenge, and a series of Chinooks flew over, and squirrel helicopters came over, and just followed us in the car for about 10 miles, and we stopped by the side of the road, and the helicopter came down. And all these videos are on my YouTube channel of all the helicopters doing this. Yeah, they're still there. Yeah.
And what is your YouTube channel?
Gridkeeper.
Gridkeeper.
Celestial Paladin.
Don't talk about Tim Refat.
No. Get shut down. And then, the helicopter, we stopped the car, and the helicopter came down by the side of the road in the field, and it just sat there looking at us for 10 minutes and flew off. And it just opened my eyes a bit. Like, why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
Yeah, then I started.
This is an Apache at John Walson's
That's at his house, near, just below Goodwood in Chichester. And then I started going to a lot of crop circles. And every crop circle I went to, a helicopter would turn up. And it was after I'd watched...
Matthew, did you have helicopters fly after you when you made crop circles? No? Balls of light. Okay.
And what I learned, it doesn't matter who makes the crop circle, it still has an effect. And even if humans make it, those humans are possessed by other entities that know what they're doing. The best one was Milk Hill Crop Circle in 2010. If you type into YouTube Milk Hill Crop Circle Chopper, you'll see me walking towards the crop circle, and the squirrel helicopter appears, and it follows me to the crop circle for an hour as I'm walking towards it. And the closer I get to the crop circle, the closer the helicopter comes to me, till I can see the eyes of the guy in the helicopter. As soon as I walk into the middle of the crop circle, he's gone. 2 minutes later, one of these appears in the video. and you see on the camera, he waves at me as he flies past. And my question was, why are you doing that? What?
They're obviously having a good time.
Why? And it never stopped. And they started coming to my farm. And
where's your farm?
In Chichester, just south of Chichester. And in 2009, Walson used to have his telescope in the roof of one of my houses with all the Apple Mac equipment up there. And I'd gone back to my mum's house. This is a bit of a story here. I'll tell him this one.
Go ahead.
So I went back to my mum's house to clear out my old room, and I found a document, a certificate, to say that I'd had military training at the age of 9 years old. I'd never seen this document in my life. So I rang my mum up to ask her. She didn't know what I was talking about, and it was this weird certificate. So I folded it up and put it in the back pocket of my jeans. As soon as I did that, a Chinook turned up next to my mum's house within a minute. I stood in my sister's bedroom window looking out to the field, and he came around next to me, and they were all looking at me. And then he flew off up towards now where my farm is, on the other side of the canal. A Lynx helicopter then turned up, and they came up to the window and looked at me and flew off. So I decided to walk to my friend's house on the other side of Chichester, but I had to walk up to the canal the same way the Chinook went. And remember, I've got this bit of paper in the back pocket of my jeans. It's not going to go anywhere. So I've got to the house, went to show my friend, nothing in my pocket. Nothing at all. The helicopter then went to the farm, which I didn't own at the time. And there was a video of this on Walson's YouTube channel. I can't remember what it's called. But it came over the farm, and he came over the roof of the house where the computers were in the roof and caused £14,000 worth of damage to the roof. It was that close to it. A car crashed in the road because they thought the helicopter was crashing. You're right there, Cookie. And all the Apple Macs were fried, destroyed.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. And that sort of woke us all up a bit, really. And we just continued doing what we were doing. But I'm going to rewind a bit. I met Walson in the year 2000, and he'd already been filming UFOs for 2 years. And I used to work in a recording studio in Chichester, and he used to come in and show me these UFOs. And I was the only one that believed him. So, and
these two people look very similar.
Yeah, the one on the left is not Walson. We think that's
the one on the left is
clone of him.
Halazando, doing all the UAP stuff.
And I kept bumping into Walson in town, and he always had his laptop, and we'd sit down and he'd show me this new video footage, and he'd be telling me, these are starships, these are spaceships. And then it was in 2006, I convinced him to let me edit a video and put it on my YouTube channel. And that's where it all started, really. And we ended up putting up over 200 videos. I think we had 150 different spaceships and about 100 moon videos. And we were filming
stuff on the moon.
Yeah, we were filming the moon and finding funny shapes with shadows, and they looked like giant craft actually parked on the moon. But we had no idea what any of it was.
Well, this is an example of one of the first ones. Again, this is taken from the book. And the important thing about this is that the telescope is, the camera has had its lens removed so that the CCD of the actual camera itself is getting a direct image from the telescope.
That's a very important part of the setup, taking the lens out.
And this is a Celestron telescope, and that's got more modifications done to that. Is that the one that was a John Lear's? Does anybody know who John Lear is?
I've never used a Celestron telescope with
Well, that's in the
John.
book. Have you not read the book?
I've not seen all the older telescopes yet.
It's in the book. It's in the book. If you want to see this,
I can't
you've got to
remember what
buy
I
the
did
book.
5 minutes ago, asking me what's in a book.
So this is, again, in the book, and these are the types of craft that they've been seeing.
Is that 2008? Yeah, these are.
So this is like
some of the
18 years ago?
Yeah, so these are some of the better images. So he did have everything in HD, but I could never get the HD footage off him.
No, he won't give you that.
Never wanted to put that out.
So the point about it is these things are about, I don't know, some of them are bigger than an A380, some of them are huge, and some of them is actually equipment for building things. This is another one. Again, this is a picture of a picture.
That picture on the right. So if you read the book, he tells a story that he goes out with one of his friends and he shows him the spaceships for the first time. Well, it doesn't say it in the book, but that was me. So I'd been working with him for 4 years before I actually said to him, let me look through the telescope. So we went up to Goodwood one night in the car park, and the way he does it is quite remarkable. The Meade telescope that he used was probably from the edge of the stage to there, and about that round. And he laid it on the ground. Then he laid on the ground, and he held the telescope with his arms, and he was tracking stuff with his arms perfectly, which any astronomer will tell you that's impossible.
Well, he's SAS, and you've done a few things, or ex-SAS.
So he put the camera on the back of the telescope, and that is the image with the yellow bit. That's to say there's no tape in the camera. And he opened it up in front of me, and my mind's still playing tricks with me. Is this really real? What's he got on the end of the telescope that's putting these images on there? So I've walked around the telescope. I'm looking at everything. And he said to me, pick a star. So I said, Sirius. I want you to zoom into Sirius. So obviously a big bright light. And he gets to a certain point, and it just turns into that right in front of your eyes. And I'm like, what is that?
The point is that we're close focusing, relatively speaking. Instead of seeing the star, the star is being used to hide this from plain sight. But by pulling the focus, and especially at getting that macro lens effect, you're able to see objects in relatively, so maybe only 500 miles off.
And it blocks out the starlight, and then you see what's parked in front of it. So they've been very clever in hiding all this from astronomers, because they are literally between certain stars and your point of view.
And of course, if you're trying to focus on something that's 500 billion trillion you're light years away, you're going to miss what's right in front of it. And that's one of the original images.
That one, yeah, that we called that the Star Trek picture.
Well, that's a crane. It's a digger or something.
Yeah, I've seen one like this. I don't know if it was this one, but where the bright bit is on the right-hand side, I've seen it come down, open up like two big clamps, and a UFO has come up and it's grabbed hold of it and then moved it back up.
Now you can see this is really fuzzy, and you can see the lines on this. So these are, you need a bit of imagination perhaps to see what
the lines are from the.
So that's a sort of a rendition from an artist who's looked at it line by line, and with a JPEG and all these other things, I've sort of sharpened it up and concluded that that's what it looks like. This is a spacecraft, but it's meant to do a lot of other things.
Yeah, I've seen
digging things up.
I've seen one where it suddenly disappears, and it's got a giant black screen on two arms that come up and over behind it and put it in front of the ship, so you can't see it. Which is, quite mad, really, that they designed that.
So let's get the next one. We're just going to go. Oh God! Resume. So, that could be it could be part of the Star Wars project with a whole lot of missile platforms up in space. And the idea is if we could get sharper ones from the Astronomy Society. Again, that's 2024 artist rendition of that photograph on the left, by John Wilkie. So he's looked at this very carefully, and he's been working on Star Wars behind the scenes, and also as an actor he's done stuff on Voyager and things like that, TVC. So this is what, by looking at the right-hand image very carefully and taking the fuzzy bit away, one little bit of fuzz, one little strip at a time, you get a sharper image, but again, we need something better.
Most of them have the same thing in common. They have this long bit at the front.
And again, this is where the submarine hull comes in, the pressure hull for the radiation. So that gives you an idea of how big these things are. And that's the submarine component of one of these craft. This thing, you can see at the bottom, looks like a submarine. It's got a conning tower. One half of it is a submarine. And then the other half of it is designed for some kind of dual flight mode, flying through space, and then when it hits the ocean, this tail assembly cranks back down, and then this thing's just going around in the ocean just like anything else.
And if you are lucky to see one of the big ones move off, they are gone. They just go very quickly.
Again, this is an artist rendition of a photograph, and it's circa 2024. So this is basically stuff in the book. And some of them look like aircraft carriers. And that's an example of the relative size of what they're looking at, relative an A380. And one of the last images was from somebody else's photographs, but it's an example of you've got things fluttering, and by checking the resolution and things, you can see a better shape of this hypersonic swivel wing interceptor. That's an example of that.
I've never seen that one before.
Well, it's something that's
from 1997. That's
1997. So that's just something that John Wilkie sent. But what's the bottom line on this, Duncan?
Don't ask me what I think about it.
Excuse me, Duncan. What's the bottom line on this?
I don't like aliens, and I'd like to see all these things crash and burn. That's just my personal view. I don't trust any of them, especially these things. And I did... so, Jerry Gilmore, let me get this right, Oxford, Cambridge... Is it Oxford University, I think? One of the universities, he's head of astronomy. He looked at all this stuff and said that John Walson had filmed some of the Star Wars project from the Reagan years. And he bigged him up and said, no one in the world could ever do this with a telescope. He said, to get this, he said, you're on the very edge and the limitations of what any telescope on this planet can do. There was, and then, I don't know if any of you remember when James Casbolt and I released, am I allowed to mention his name?
Yeah, you can mention his name. James
I just
Casbolt
did
was a
it.
naughty boy. He did a few things.
And we got some documents from the NSA that we thought everyone should see, and they were called Manifest Production Observership of Light Encoded Reality Matrix. Do you remember that?
Could you say that again?
No. And it was to do with the Roswell aliens and the experiments that the NSA had done. So I got hold of the chap that wrote this document for the NSA. It's Dr. Bordon, A.R. Bordon, something like that. And I got to know him a bit. And I asked him why he did it. He got paid $4 million to write those documents. He said he didn't have a choice.
Flip me. Write some documents.
And he was the guy in the NSA that was remote viewing the universe, so they could work out boundaries and everything. So I asked him if he could remote view one of the spaceships. I never spoke to him. When he came back to me, it was the last time we ever spoke, because it changed his life. He went into, it was one of the ones we just saw, actually.
Yeah.
It could have been this one. It was like that one. And he wrote back to me, and he said he remote viewed into it, and he was in the long part of the tube bit, standing in a corridor, looking, and he said this big reptilian entity thing came around the corner, but saw him, and he got out.
That's one of the things about remote viewing.
Scared
they can
him.
see you,
Yeah.
and they can follow you back.
So it must have been about 10 years ago. I looked him up. I wanted to know what he was doing with himself. And I found a Wikipedia page, which I can't find now. And it had the top 10 people on the planet that were listed for alien contactees in case aliens came and landed. And he was on that list. He was like number 6 or something.
Well, I think that's enough for now.
Yeah.
You got any more time? Do you want to say a few other things about other things? About how you found the alien base? Bases has been going for 30 years, and you found the base.
Yeah, I went to, Peasmore.
Peasmore.
Yeah, I went to, we knew Barry King.
Yeah.
Thanks to you. And Barry gave us a load of documents. And on the last page, he wrote, "This is a Firefly. It's like a smaller version of a TR-3B. He said it flies around over Oxford. And at the bottom, he wrote, "If you don't believe me, go and have a look." So we did. Me and James went off on an adventure.
Firefly is one of the so-called alien triangular spacecraft, which is actually powered by 3 Mercury engines, which are derived from the Glock, that the Germans were developing in the Second World War. And so those things fly around, and when they want to move, they just go boom.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that gives the 3 corners. And the TR-3B is ancient.
Just a bigger version. There's 7 of them based up in Scotland at Falkirk, and they come out from under the ground. Just what I found out. But when we were at Peasmore, we went into the pub, and helicopters around the pub, trying to talk to the locals. That was all a bit weird.
Peasmore's a village just down the M4 from here,
Yeah.
a few miles.
And then we went up onto the farmland, and we got caught by someone who worked for the farmer. We got thrown off, and we got hold of the farmer, and we asked him for permission, and he said we could go up there. And by this time, it was about midnight, and there's 3 of us sitting in this field. Every light we saw, we're getting excited. UFO, UFO, and it was an aeroplane. And it's 11:30. We were just about to pack up, and someone noticed the time had changed from 11:30 to 12 o'clock. But just before that moment, we did see a light coming, and it came over us, and it stopped dead. And it had 3 white lights and a red light in the middle. We were screaming, all excited. I've pulled out my video camera. Unfortunately, it was on manual focus, and I didn't know. I couldn't work out why I couldn't focus it. And that was the footage I gave you on that drive that you had a bit of trouble with. And I think there's only one frame when you pause it, and you can actually see the 3 white lights and the red light in the middle. But the problem is we'd lost half an hour of time. So I got James and the other person to get regression. And apparently, on the TR-3B was a load of Delta Force agents who beamed down, grabbed us, put us on the TR3B, and the next thing you know, we're in the underground base underneath Peasmore Village. The AL499.
AL499.
I'll never forget that name.
This all goes back to World War II, when
Yeah.
Barry King's father was responsible for checking out labs that the Germans had, and they found the labs, and there were strange-looking humans in there and a strange-looking aircraft. And that goes back to the Germans mucking about and doing transhumanization and making greys. That's World War II. We're now talking. And there's a new video just been released on YouTube, and it lasts about an hour, and it's got extremely detailed analysis of the bloods, the organs, every part of the anatomy of different types of greys, and it's in precise detail. And Peter Paget just sent that a couple of days ago, but it's on YouTube. So
That's mad. When I was in the underground base, James and my other friend we were in this weird white-walled room with a metal table in the middle, and they were both standing to one side, but I was strapped to the table. And the next thing you know, it's just like classic movie stuff. A scientist came running in with a clipboard, screaming, "Why is he here? Why is he here? You shouldn't have done this," in a blind panic. And they put these green eggs inside me.
you never told us about the green eggs.
It's not the sort of thing you want to tell people, really.
Well, there's cream eggs and there's green eggs. And there's alien green eggs.
For the next month, I did crap it all out. That's all I can say. That's all I can say about that.
On that happy note, anything finally you want to say about John Walson and your relationship with him and all that stuff in the States and making a movie and seeing John Lear?
We could stand here all day telling stories about that. Yeah, we went to visit John Lear in a...
Anybody here know who John Lear is?
We rented a giant camper van in Los Angeles with a couple of movie friends we know. We were going to make a documentary. We were going to do a TV series. We went to a big television company, and they agreed that if we went off with the movie cameras and filmed a load of stuff and came back, they might be able to do something with it. But it was so out there, I don't think they ever would have been able to. But it never worked out anyway. But at John Lear's house, it was quite amazing to walk into his study. And the first thing I noticed was several of these pictures from Walson's films that he'd printed off, framed and put up around the top of his study. And he actually recognised, I think, 2 of them. And he said, there's one where at the back it's got a bright triangle bit. And he said he saw that being made, I think, at Lockheed Martin. And he was obsessed with that.
And you were talking,
no reason not to
on
believe
the clip that Walson has.
It was a bit like...
I don't have it on this. They explained how they used one of these huge spacecraft to take out the Twin Towers.
Oh, that was... Yeah, John Lear was talking about that. Yeah. Possible.
Well, you've got to go and take care of people back at Goodwood, is that right?
Chichester.
Chichester.
Back to the shop. And
he's got a shop. He's a shop owner now.
Poorly kids and everything. And
oh dear, screaming. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Duncan Davis. I think this is the important thing is this is volume 1. It's how to make these pictures. You can get this, and with technical knowledge, you may be able to make better telescopes and get better pictures. So in the meantime, thank you very much.
Maybe next time we can do this again. And I do apologise for John, but he's had such a hard time in the last month that
really hammering.
He just cannot get anything sorted. So we haven't got pictures of him that we needed or anything, because he's having a very difficult time at the moment.
To give you some illustrations.
Maybe next time, if life's better for him, I could come down with him. We'll have more pictures, more things to show you, and we could do it for a couple of hours.
Well, the way things are developing,
10 hours and we wouldn't run out of things
we'd have to see if we got hours. And the main thing is, even though you can get this from Amazon, you can get it from Devices Books, and that's the place to go for all your books. She's fantastic. Yeah, and Joe up in Devices Books, Handle House is fantastic.
There's some great information in there, including Robert Watts, who was the producer of Star Wars. He used to come to my farm and look through the telescope, and he was really, really interested in what was going on. But he passed away not so long ago.
That was Robert Watt who passed away, not
Watts.
Wilkie. I thought it was Wilkie.
No, it's Robert Watts.
Yeah. Right, and I think that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Cookie.
Thank you, Cookie.
Oh, I just want to add this.
Oh, this is one of the...
Yeah. When you see Walson showing videos of what they call UAPs now, this is what he's filming them with. And it's a night vision camera that they use in America to go hunting deer and stuff with. And it's called a HIC Micro FQ50. They're about £4,000. But if you've got one of these and you have an aeroplane go over you at night, landing at Gatwick or Heathrow, the chances are 9 times out of 10 you will see UAPs. I'm so bored of them now. It's every aeroplane coming over my farm. And you'll usually see 3 of them, and they'll usually appear around the aeroplane as soon as the aeroplane goes over the top of you. And then they stay with the plane. So if any of you want to have a look through this while I'm here, because I'm not shooting off straight away, you can. There you go. It's a FQ50. And interestingly, their logo is the all-seeing eye. Yeah. And it'll do FLIR, red vision, night vision, and white hot as well. It's very, very good. There you go.
Thank you very much. Well, you certainly got. Is that one working now? No? 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh yeah, it is. You certainly got a very captive audience, I think, for that little device there. And interestingly, is one of the. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. One of the images that came up of the ship, the triangle ship. Oh, there we go. One of the images there that came up in the start of the presentation, thank you very much, Miles and Duncan there, of the triangle ship. I've seen one of those myself at the end of my road. That was one of the things in 2012 that was instrumental to my awakening, that I'd been having a lot of voices and psychic dreams and premonitions and hunches and intuitions, which I kind of thought were down to yoga and meditation. But then a voice in my head said, well, the next thing you're going to see is a UFO. And I thought, what? And I saw that triangle craft at the end of my road, and then it shot off. And that really was the thing that made me realize there's so much more to life than meets the eye. So I'm grateful myself for that little reminder when it popped up on the screen. So thank you for that conversation to our lovely organizer, Miles Johnston, and the Gridkeeper, Duncan, and of course the lovely Cookie. Another round of applause for them, because Miles has been very busy today. And then I think, are we going straight into the next one, Miles?
We've got a bit of time because Dr. Meir is unable to come from Cambridge.
Oh, so we're missing a speaker.
We're missing Dr. Ramir.
Ah, okay, so we're missing a speaker, so we can have a little break?
We can have a little break.
Okay, a little break. Oh.
The Grail.
Tell him something. So as some of you may know, I built a twisted grail labyrinth on my farm. The videos aren't on YouTube anymore because they don't need to be. But it's changed now. We used it to work against the royal family, Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and it's worked. It's worked extremely well. It works so well that I've removed the middle of the grail, and all I've got now is the checkerboard wall around the outside. And what it does now, it's open to anyone now. If anyone wants to come to my farm who thinks you might have any type of possession on you, especially if it's demonic, and if you walk around it a certain amount of times anti-clockwise, it will rip the demons off you and it will put them into the stone and they can never come out. If you then walk around it 144 times clockwise, it will really, really, really fill you up with the true light from the source. It's the most amazing thing on this planet at the moment, and this is the first time I've told anyone it's doing that now. What's it called now? I don't know. We haven't changed the name of it yet. It's the Grail. Yeah, it's the Grail Wall now. And if you're interested in doing this, you can send me an email at gridkeepermusic@hushmail.com, and you can come down to my farm for the day or whatever. So get in touch. It's amazing. Yeah, and if you've got people that can see any of these entities or anything, bring them with you, and they'll tell you what's actually happening. And then gridkeepermusic@hushmail.com. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow, gridkeepermusic@hushmail.com. And the interesting question, and then you just sparked a question in me actually, Duncan, you might have to pop back up, but how would you know if you have got a demonic entity? Surely you're thinking, my life's just great, I just keep starting fights with everyone, I'm having sex with people I don't want to have sex with, but my life's fine. It's nothing to do with an entity. No, nothing at all.
I've only got one answer to that. Everyone's possessed by something. I'm sorry to say that.
That makes sense. That does make sense in this crazy world we're in.